Hi, this is part 2 of the project CID demonstration. Here we are at the Admin Center page. To just reiterate and maybe clarify what the system does is there's an update service that runs that can do two actions. It can update data and it can update an attached Google AdWords campaign. When it runs, it will determine what the top number of metropolitan areas based on electric vehicle activity, which, as I mentioned in part 1, the electric vehicle activity is determined by the number of publicly available charging stations. So the system is set to run once a week. Well, it's scheduled to do work once a week. So the update service itself will run every night at 12 a.m. or every morning at 12 a.m. It'll determine, is it scheduled to do work, whether it's a manual schedule or it's regularly scheduled time. If it's not, it'll just exit. If it is its time, it will then go and do the data updates if that is enabled, and it'll do the campaign updates. If both are enabled, if it's to do the data updates and the campaign updates, it'll go and refresh the data. So it'll go and determine, are these still the top 5 metropolitan areas in terms of electric vehicle activity? So what could happen, here you have Seattle at number 5 and Boston at number 6. Let's say the data refresh came back and all of a sudden Boston is now in the position number 5. So when the system goes and updates the campaigns, it'll then remove Seattle from the list and add Boston. Now, the other thing that can happen is an administrator can come in and say that they currently we're doing 5 metropolitan areas. They can come and say, hey, I only want to do a couple, or I want to do more. So that value can be changed so that the next run occurs that it'll both consider what is the top number of metropolitan areas and how many does the administrator want to target. So here I'm going to demonstrate what would happen if someone wants to update the campaign target count, not do a data refresh, but just change the number of targets that are currently set. So you can see we've got 5 here. The campaign target count is set to 6. That means the next run it's going to add 1 city to the target list. In order to trigger an update, I went ahead and in the back end set the next runtime to this morning at 12 a.m. So that means when I trigger the scheduled task of the update service, it'll go ahead and perform the update. So since I'm doing this outside of the regularly scheduled 12 a.m. run, I'm going to go into the task scheduler and click a run. Okay, the update service was triggered, and I will refresh the page, and we should see that another city was added to our current campaign targets, and the run times were updated as well. So we can see we now have Boston in our list. We didn't have that one before. And then clicking over to the AdWords campaign, I just refreshed this. It also shows that Boston was added as well. So the next runtime, the default is to have it run 7 days in the future. So that's why it's set here to 12/2. Also to note, the update service will log locally. So this here is showing you, this is the regularly scheduled run that occurred this morning at 12 a.m. It simply logs that it started. It checks the configs to determine whether it should run or not. This one, it looked, the next runtime was not now or earlier, and manual schedule was false, so it did not do any work, so it just stopped. Then when I just ran it now, it started, it checked the configs, it saw that the next run date was in the past, so it did work. It started the set advertising targets, determined that there was nothing to remove, but there was one to add, so it added it successfully and completed its work. Next, I'm going to demonstrate a data update. So I'm going to set the flag to true, and we'll leave both the targets the same and the campaign updates also as true. And then like last time, I'm going to manually trigger the update service. And in order to trigger the update service, for demo purposes, I had to go manually set the next runtime to a time in the past. So once again, I will click run, and I will pause the recording. And here I want to show that the logging started again, checked the configs, again, saw it was in the past, and once it started, it logged that it's doing the data refresh. In a minute here, we'll start seeing all of the areas it's checking and all of the latest charging station counts. And here's the data, as I mentioned, it's going through each postal code for one of the defined metropolitan areas and gathering that data. So as this runs, I'll explain that what I'm doing, I'm getting data based on 175 defined metropolitan areas. I'm using one postal code from each metropolitan area to fetch the data about charging stations. I'm using the postal code as the central area, and I'm specifying a 50-mile radius. So anything that appears within 50 miles of that postal code will get included in the data refresh. Okay, the update service has completed the data refresh. And as you can see where it logged, it went on to set advertising targets, but it recognized that there's nothing to remove and nothing to add because the order of the top 6 locations did not change. So the update service stopped. So this was the table before we ran it. This is the table after. What you can see here is that the station count for Los Angeles actually declined from 1536 to 1531. This can happen if stations go out of commission for maintenance, or if possibly they were removed. But most of the time, over time, you'll see them increase. For example, in New York, went from 704 to 710. Now, I did just run this a few days ago, so the data doesn't update that much, which is why I have it currently set to run once a week. So I wouldn't expect to see much movement unless there's a couple weeks have gone by. But this is just to demonstrate the point that the refresh occurred, the latest data got posted to the website. All right, so that is the end of the demonstration of my project. Please review the blog I created for any questions you may have. The reasons why I did things a certain way or should be explained there. So to summarize, this project allowed me to apply knowledge that I obtained in several courses throughout the engineering science program at Arizona State University. I was able to analyze requirements in design and component-based development. That is topics from CSC 598, software analysis and design. I was able to utilize software development process models and software project management skills, which I learned in CSC 566, software project process and quality management. I was able to practice with service-oriented software development with the different web services that I created and the integration with third-party web services. This was a topic in CSC 598, distributed software development. And finally, the testing I did, the unit testing, integration, and system and UI testing, regression testing that occurred throughout the project. This was skills I obtained in CSC 565, software verification, validation, and testing. So if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.